When mentioning Tantra or Tantrism, Westerners often think of formidable techniques for sexual performance or the use of sex for spiritual purposes. But how did this Indian set of traditions become part of Western esotericism? And what role does Tantra play in the development of sex magic? I bet I caught your attention, huh? Naughty you! Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Angela Puca and welcome to my symposium. I'm a PhD and a university lecturer, and this is your online resource for the academic study of magic, shamanism, esotericism, and all things occult. Today's video is brought to you by the kind supporter Faceless Cap. Thank you so much for commissioning this video, which I really hope you're going to enjoy. Tantra is a Sanskrit word meaning to loom, weave, stretch, extend, and refers to a heterogeneous set of texts, traditions, sects, and ritual practices that spread throughout the Hindu, Jain, and Buddhist communities of South and East Asia from approximately the 4th and the 5th century of the Common Era onwards. As for the category of Tantrism, that is a Western invention of Orientalist scholars of the 19th century. Equally recent is the identification of Tantrism with sexual practices, as the Tantric rituals encompass a wide array of practices, only some of which entail a sexual element. As David Gordon White highlights, the Indian sexual rites bear little resemblance to the practices of sex magic in the West. Yet, both share the rejection of moral norms as well as transgressive and antinomian behavior, such as the use of taboo foods and substances for religious purposes. Hugh Urban explains that in the late Victorian era, men and women had an ambivalent relationship with religion and sexuality, and saw in the exotic other found in Tantra a way to free themselves from the oppressive prudery of the 19th century Christian society. The first most influential esotericist of mid-19th century America, who incorporated sex magic in his practice, was Paschal Beverly Randolph. Randolph claimed to have learned such practices in the areas of Jerusalem and Bethlehem, where he met a dark Arab maiden who first revealed to him the spiritual mysteries of love. After that, he would acquire more knowledge thanks to his interactions with a group of fakirs or Sufis, who initiated him into a variety of occult and alchemical arts. For Randolph, the sexual climax is both dangerous and powerful, with the potential of leading upward to higher states of transcendence, or downward to depravity and corruption. Sex can therefore be ritualistically employed both for spiritual purposes and for improving one's life on a more mundane level. Randolph refers to these practices as scientia sexualis, the science of sex, and believed that the fluids produced by the act of lovemaking had immense alchemical and transformative power, which he called the lymphication of love. Key for Randolph is the union occurring between male and female, who need to ideally have a simultaneous orgasm to obtain the most potent results. Randolph also thought that the two partners should be married and in love, as any sexual practice outside of a heterosexual marriage, whether solo or with others, was believed to lead to depravity. So, as you can see, we have in Randolph the inception of sexual practices in magic, allegedly sourced from the Sufis, yet within very strict rules based on what was considered normative at the time. It is with our beloved and utterly controversial Aleister Crowley that we see sex magic opening up to non-heteronormative practices, as well as a link to Tantric traditions, especially those of the left-hand path. While other Tantric schools will develop different ideas on how to ritually engage with sex, such as semen retention and sublimation of various kinds, one of the oldest schools of Tantra, the Kula Tantra, from Kula, which means lineage or family, employed the oral consumption of the sexual fluids so that the initiated would become part of the esoteric lineage and source from its powerful essence. Krishnananda further maintains that once these fluids are placed in the sacred vessel and consecrated by the goddess, they are turned into the divine nectar Amrita, which consumed will lead to supreme bliss and the fulfillment of worldly and otherworldly desires. Crowley, in his sex magic, employs these concepts as well as the ritualistic transgression that breaks the social norms found in Tantra. In The Law is for All, he writes that the sexual act is the sacrament of will, here talking of that will that is so pivotal in the Crowleyan system of magic. In many ways, as Urban argues, Crowley was continuing the tradition of sexual magic that began with Randolph, which was then incorporated by the Hermetic Brotherhood of Luxor and later by the Ordo Templi Orientis, OTO in short, which Crowley joined in 1910. Crowley developed several new rituals for the OTO, including a Gnostic Mass infused with sexual symbolism that tried to creatively reimagine the alleged rites of the early Gnostics before they got corrupted by Christianity. However, it is likely that the knowledge Crowley had of Tantra was quite rudimental and tainted by the Orientalist biases of his time. There is, in fact, stronger evidence of his acquaintance with yoga than there is with regards to Tantra. Crowley seemed particularly attracted by the sexual sensual aspects of Tantra, which is why he considered it a valid form of religion that includes the body, the earthly sensations and emotions, instead of excluding them from the spiritual journey of the individual. However, he overemphasized this element, a key departure from Tantra, as the centrality of sex in Crowley's view is indeed in contrast with the much more marginal role it plays in Tantric traditions. Another interesting figure is Kenneth Grant, the English thelemic ceremonial magician who founded the Typhonian order and has been described as the pioneer of Western Tantra. As Manon Hedenborg White highlights, Grant associated the OTO and Crowley to Tantra due to the use of sex to access the invisible worlds and other planes of consciousness. Interestingly, in Grant we see an emphasis on the left-hand path, seen as associated with the lunar aspect of creation and the divine feminine, as opposed to the right-hand path, perceived as more linked to the solar and masculine sides. As a consequence, for Kenneth Grant and his Typhonian system, the female sexual secretions had a primary importance in the magical act and were defined as vital elixirs sought after by alchemists and adepts of old. Grant also criticized Crowley, deeming that he failed to explore the female role in sex magic and acknowledge its crucial importance in such practices. This is exemplified by the primary importance of female genital fluids, or kala, generated by Tantric rites, compared to which the male ones act as mere catalysts. The power of the kalas in sex magic is ensured by the priestess being of an equal, if not higher, degree of initiation than the priest. To sum it up, sex magic was introduced to the Western esoteric milieu by Paschal Beverly Randolph, who claimed to have sourced that knowledge from the Sufis and saw its employment as reserved to married heterosexual couples. The association between sex magic and the Western understanding of Tantra first occurred with Aleister Crowley and the OTO. Crowley's understanding of Tantra was limited and overemphasized the sexual component of the magical rites. However, he followed the Tantric attitude of transgressing the moral norms of his time and opened sex magic to homosexual and solo practices. Kenneth Grant explored more the feminine role in sex magic, which he deemed central to the left-hand path in Tantra, and developed the practice towards a further inclusion, if not even a prevalence, of the divine feminine. This is it for today's video. Thank you again, Faceless Cap, for reaching out and commissioning a video on this topic. And as for you, my kind viewer, if you like my content and want me to keep the academic fun going, please consider supporting my work with a one-time PayPal donation by joining memberships or my inner symposium on Patreon, where you will get access to our Discord server, monthly lectures, and lots of other perks depending on your chosen tier. And if you did like this video, don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video with your friends, and activate the notification bell so that you will never miss a new upload from me. Thank you so much for being here, and stay tuned for all the academic fun. Bye for now.